7:17, welcome back. Live shot, Century Plaza Hotel and Spa. Getting into the conversation surrounding property tax because this past Monday night, Vancouver City Council approved a 2% tax shift from business to residential properties to provide some tax relief over the next 3 years. Joining us, Michelle Borelli from the West Broadway Business Improvement Association. Welcome to you. Larry Benge, co-chair of the Coalition of Vancouver Neighborhoods. We're overwhelmed with cost of living in this city. Reaction, what have you heard from homeowners given the idea, and we're going to get this notice in May, that property taxes are going up for residents?
First of all, I have to qualify my answers by saying that I'm speaking as a private citizen because the Coalition hasn't discussed this fully, so I'm not here to represent them. But I have heard from various people in the last couple days as kind of a reaction to this. It's kind of mixed. Generally, everybody realizes that small business needs support, and it's some of the things are that perhaps this could be targeted a little bit better to focus on small businesses as opposed to a broad brushstroke approach. But the city has been talking about doing things or doing something to help small businesses for years, and this is welcome because at least they're doing something. This is a move in the right direction to help small businesses because they're so critical to the overall character of our neighborhoods, and our neighborhoods are the building blocks of the entire city. So, and we have unique neighborhoods in this city.
Well, this was not a unanimous decision with City Council. A lot of factors were debated, and you talk about the idea of putting a blanket tax shift, given some big businesses don't need the tax relief. What is the bottom line for small businesses for what you've seen, Michelle? And is it fair that a big company, say, for example, Walmart, is getting property tax relief as well, while homeowners are suffering with a high cost of living?
So I think it comes down to looking at the numbers, right? So 98% of businesses are small businesses. That's 50 employees or less. And in the broader range in BC, 84% of businesses employ 5 employees or less. There's one Walmart in Vancouver. There's 22 small business neighborhoods with hundreds. We represent thousands of small businesses across the city. So when we look at those numbers and reflect on that and look at the growth of the residential tax base versus the commercial tax base, it's been since 2012, 15,000 approximately residential to 500 commercial properties. And then you look at the consumption of services. So commercial properties consume approximately 23% of city services. But then you look at the tax burden, and the tax burden is over 4 to 1. So there is very much an inequality here. Small businesses are struggling. There are other solutions, but it's not an or, like this solution or that solution. It's an and. And we are in this together. So small businesses employ local residents. A big business employs your neighbors. We are all in this together. Perhaps the parent might work at the bigger business, the child and the family works at the local business. The cost of having to drive to get your amenities, the cost of having to bring your children to work outside of your community, that is a greater cost than what this shift would be. This is a nominal amount for a resident versus the struggle and the overbearing costs that have been placed on businesses for years.
Well, the struggle for businesses, and you spoke to this as well, about it's important to have small business for character of the neighborhoods. The struggle of businesses, and when you break down the numbers, it makes sense. And then there's the struggle for residents to stay in the city. If we want to be employed, we want to live around these jobs and avoid these long commutes. What do you say to the people, Larry, that just feel it's another tax, I'm overwhelmed? What's the threshold until we start losing residents from living in the city altogether? Because housing affordability has been a hot topic for, the past couple of years.
Yeah, this is, the reality is this is a very complex issue, as as all the issues in the city are around affordability. It's not one thing isn't going to solve the problem, but we need to make the small steps towards solutions. And yes, there are some people who I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, everybody that I've talked to is all gung-ho for this and 100% behind it, because there are some people who simply don't want any more increase in their taxes, period. And there are also people who have criticized this in that it may be an unequal burden for low-income, social housing, those kinds of classes of the paying people. And so it may hit them unequally with the regular, the average homeowner. Because to me, the average homeowner, this is a very, very little bit of additional money to pay to help the neighborhood stay the way it is. And of course, somebody's going to say, oh, yeah, all you want is stay the way it is. No, I don't. I realize that there are changes in all neighborhoods. And yes, there is a turnover of businesses as a natural part of neighborhoods. But in these times, we're having an unnatural numbers of businesses closing down, moving away, failing, because they're hit with the hard fact of triple net. And it's really damaging our neighborhoods. I live along West Broadway, and you look along West Broadway where Michelle works as well. And it's not just, yes, we've had turnover, but it's the rate of turnover is amazing. And, you know, as I was telling you earlier, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, you know, those guys, maybe we don't make candles anymore, but you know, small grocers, the veggie stands, the restaurants, all of this, you move into a neighborhood because of the businesses that are there, as well as the other, you know, attractions of a neighborhood. But they're one of the big, important parts of your neighborhood. Being able to walk to places to buy your groceries, to buy your veggies, to get a haircut, to buy your prescription drugs, things like that. All of that's important, and it adds character and flavor to a neighborhood. And our neighborhoods are very important, and we have to help to save them. And if residents, by paying a little bit more on their taxes, can help to keep the businesses alive and thriving, then I believe it's worth it.
Okay. It's a nominal amount. It truly is, and it's an average of $40 a year for the average home price.
I know you've talked a lot about numbers. We only have a certain amount of time, but in like 30 seconds, Michelle, if you can comment on the thing that caught my eye with this is how assessments are laid out of the potential for the property for rezoning. How do we change that? Because that's a huge burden as well of how these taxes are calculated.
It's true. I want to quickly address also property owners are also small business owners. So when we look at what's happening with taxing and assessments, we have to realize we need solutions that work for both the property owner and the business owner. My treasurer is a property owner. He bears part of the tax burden for his tenants. So we need policies that work for both. And on that note, there could be split assessments so that the phantom density of the highest and best use potential is assessed at a residential rate instead of a commercial rate. That would be a split assessment policy. And that's something that we're advocating for with the city and with the province. There's certain solutions that are provincial, certain that are municipal. There's an intergovernmental working group, and we just look forward to continuing to work on multi-level solutions and connecting with our community. This is about us working together. It's not businesses versus residents. It's not big versus small. This is an ecosystem. We need to support each other.
It's a good message to end on right there. Feel free to tweet us about this, @BT_Vancouver. The notices for property taxes going to be sent out in May, and we'll see that increase happening here in the city of Vancouver. Appreciate you both coming on and sharing this perspective, because obviously we want to stay in the city, we want to make it work, but we want to make it affordable, and businesses are a big part of the character that we see in our neighborhoods. So appreciate your insight.
Thank you.
Okay.